Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline studio. I'm Sybille Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. So today we're going to be doing some graphite and preliminary to a painting. But first I want to show you, just to sort of finish off everything we did with marbling. This is a little accordion book that I did many years ago. I think it says 93 on here. That's how long it is. And these are marble paintings using oil, and you just float oil with a bit of thinner, and you can see that everything, the striations and you know, the paint isn't so discreet like it is with acrylic or water-based, but some interesting stuff, and that's pretty well how I started with marbling. So that's my little magic book, and then you do it this way. And then it opens up here. And so did some floral things. And you can just see how soft and nebulous it is, but the color is nice. So poor old book is pretty ratched by now, but anyway, seen lots of use. So today's subject, as I said, has to do with preliminary to a painting. I have a project to do for the art gallery, and the deadline is looming as usual. You know how I work from my previous episodes, that I tend to do thumbnails, some color studies, before I start painting. Now, not everybody does this, but for some things it's a good idea, and I don't always do it. Sometimes I just slap paint down and then go with the flow. But in this case, it's a fairly complex subject. I want to try different thumbnails just to see you know, how the composition is going to work, to check out the color, to see if I like it. And so we'll probably be going with this one. This is more industrial, sort of hard edge. It really doesn't appeal to me as much. The linear one maybe is not enough going on, maybe not enough shapes and things. And this is a nice combination. So this is probably something close to what we're going to be doing. Now previously, this was the first painting. This is actually a diptych, which means it's two of a kind. Now a diptych doesn't have to be like matching and flowing from one to the other. Diptych can be similar subject, you know, you could have different color schemes, but somehow they fit together, and they're often sold as a pair, or, well, you can sell them individually too, but often they're sold as a pair. So this was the first one, and we'll get Josh to show a still of that later. And then this is a preliminary study that I did, color study, and just working some of the problems out. This is for the gel plate, and I did it more putting a drawing down first, then tracing off the shapes, and then, you know, dealing with it. Now this piece isn't quite finished. I would like the shapes to be a little more discreet. And I kind of like, did sort of an experimental thing last night. You know how it is when it's late at night and things sort of pop into your head and you just have to try them. And usually when you do a graphite transfer, you put the drawing directly on the plate, and then you put your medium or paint on to pull it off. Well, in this case, I put the medium on first, then the graphite drawing. And it actually gave some really nice color tones. Like it picks up all the detail of the tone that you've put on. Now, I don't know if you always get that with a graphite transfer. But as I said, this one, it needs to be shored up a little bit more, some more hours of working. Now, I'm not sure we're actually going to finish this one today, because there's quite a few hours of drawing time, and I'm going to try and speed it up a little bit by not doing that experimental process. So we'll see how it goes, and it just might end up being 2 episodes. So, all right, so let's get to it. Now I've already started some of the drawing here, As usual, we're using our Faber-Castell 9B graphite. It's a solid graphite stick. And this is an HB and just a Derwent, I think. Okay, so what I liked about this, and we've got our light box on, were the strange shapes that, you know, these reflections on the window were. So I'm not going to follow them exactly. We'll just sort of, whatever works here. And I'm working on just jelly paper, so it's obscured some of the details, which is just as well. And we're just going to go with what I find interesting. And I think this had sort of a, I don't see all the shapes through it. And we'll probably speed this process up. So we'll put some nice Josh music on. And well, Josh is looking at me. Well, I should say the Manitou. That's his alter ego for music. So we'll do that. And I should say, I should explain the concept of why I'm doing this painting. We were shooting some film on the lake, and we were waiting for ducks or something, or an otter to go by. And I was looking around, and I saw the reflection on the window, so I started shooting the reflections on the window. And to me, it looked like an alternate reality. It was so strange and distorted. And I was thinking how appropriate for our very strange and distorted time that we have right now, with viruses rampant and global warming and all the world's problems right now. So I thought, well, you know, there's one way to deal with this, and that's to make art. And so the distortions and the alternate reality is what we're, you know, talking about here. So on with the drawing. So next step, I'm just going to shade it in with the HB pencil. Just like that one got a little bit dark and murky, so I want to sort of head that off. Some areas will darken and others will stay put. So. On the first painting, I didn't put the outline of the window in because the way it's painted, I think it's fairly obvious that it's a reflection. In this case, I really want to sort of nail that idea down. So I drew the linear aspects. the framing of the... And sometimes it's nice to have a framing device around a painting. And we'll make a decision about some of these shapes, how dark they're going to be in a minute. This graphite should be a lot darker. And I'm not going to be too neat with this entire process because it is a preliminary to the painting. If it turns out to be a good piece, of course, then we'll keep it, but decisions, I think this should be dark too, but maybe not quite as dark. There'll be nuances. And in the end, we're going to be drawing lines from all the branches. So everything will be tied together in any case. Okay, so this one could be a dark shape. And this one. And then you'll make more decisions as we transfer it all. Kind of like this as a light shape, so let's darken this piece. Okay, so we still have a fair amount of good solid shapes. Maybe shore it up a little bit. I could take a bit of Kleenex and soften it, of course. But sometimes that little bit of roughness actually is kind of nice. It adds to the linear quality. So don't undo your working method. So in terms of shading, I've got it to maybe from, if black is 0 or 1, then maybe up to about 3 or 4. Okay, now comes the exciting part. So we'll just leave that on there. Now this should transfer really nice. You could use tracing paper, but I find it buckles a bit more. And even if this is off a bit, it's not a big deal. Okay, so to get the graphite onto the gel plate, you just press real hard. Use your baren. Now Mark Yates, I think it's Yates Makes, his channel, which you should check out, it's marvelous, used, he calls them Boyros, they're ballpoint pens, but I obviously don't have the right ballpoint pen. I tried it for this outline, and you can see most of the outline, I guess, but some of the inside lines didn't work so well, so it is worth trying. I just have to find the right pen to do it, I guess. Now let's see if it looks good. Now what we do is you don't have to let it dry, obviously. So now we have to make a decision as to color, and we're going to mix up a nice light color and get our paper ready. So I'll put that first coat on. When we be back, we'll get Josh to put a nice little interlude in, and we'll be right back. So I'm starting mixing my color here for the first pass. I think we're pretty good. I wanted more of the cooler side. We'll be doing the, this is, I think, a phthalo type of blue, and that's ultramarine. Amsterdam paints, of course. I want the paint to be fairly consistent, so that's why I've pre-mixed it. Otherwise, I'd just probably put it on the plate. And like any transfer, less is more. Hopefully we'll pick up all the graphite. And the paint, and I put some glazing medium in the paint to help lift that graphite off. Okay, let's see what we have. Okay, the way to correct that is to just put more medium on here and brayer it on. Sometimes it's a waiting game if it's not pulling up as well as you like. Now it's just a waiting game, so we'll take a wee break. And I'm going to wait maybe 15-20 minutes, and that will hopefully pick everything up. So we waited a half an hour, maybe a bit more, did some questions and things for upcoming videos, so that was productive. Anyway, I wanted to show you this cute little pen thing I have, and it's a water-filled. You can get a variety of these. I'm not sure, I have no idea where I got it, and well, I think it's from Opus. It's a art supply dealer, and so oh, that's funny. Okay, we'll just rinse that off. Yeah, our boonies are working overtime. Anyway, okay, this is the little thing that fits in there, and that feeds the water to the brush. So you just screw that on. We have a tiny bit of water. I don't know if you can see that little tiny bit. So that keeps the brush moist. So it's more meant for watercolor, probably out in the field, which would be great. But in this case, we need it here for the next layer. So now that we've waited for it a bit, our little print, we released it with I put some more matte medium on as well as the glazing liquid. And that seemed to help get most of it, just few, and we're going to crop this off anyway, because most of it is in this border thing here. So that's okay. And I'm just looking at it now, seeing where we need to go, what areas need darkening, what areas need lighting. So we'll mix up some color, maybe a sort of a middle tone blue now. And I've introduced, I'm going to add a little bit more violet to it. I don't know how we got that in there, but somehow it's a foreshadowing. So the nice thing about doing the graphic transfer here of graphite is that it stays on the plate, and you can actually add color to it in the right spaces, and then it will print. It will be really quite interesting to do that. So let's do that. This is dried in the meantime, so it's not a problem. We're going to keep what our additions, because the background is sort of a light blue. We're going to keep mostly this phthalo orientation and maybe just a little touch of the violet. So we might have to add, we have a little bit of beading happening. So what we're going to do is add some medium. Actually, the best thing to do probably is to just run some medium over the entire thing. That will help with the beading problem. And it actually shows up my graphite even more, which is a bonus. So the paint layer is fairly thick here. And there shouldn't be any more beading problems. Okay, this part here is quite dark, so we're going to start here. And I like this brush. It really is a really nice brush. And again, once we have this painted in, we have to wait for it to dry. It doesn't take long. My studio's quite dry. But of course, you won't have to wait at home. It's just us. Okay, so it's easier to put, because we did the shading already. And I'm just, as a painterly exercise, shift your colors a little bit so that each area isn't the same. So all the grade tones, making sure that you leave those dark areas that you want. Okay. Because this brush has a beautiful tip on it, you can really get into the fine details. I will just wipe that away if I'm over the line. I'm not seeing that so well, so, but I'll take a closer look. And up in here. And to save time, I think we can paint the white, really light areas in as well. At least I'm hoping. So try and run this as one layer with all the different tones. But I'm going to have to do the really dark ones. So it doesn't matter that I have blue on my brush, and that just help coordinate the colors. So our strongest parts are this sort of saddle looking thing. And it sort of comes out here, and this is it will print quite dark. And then I think we had right in the corner here, we had some incidental lines. And there was sort of an anvil shape thing. I'm looking at my drawing, and I should probably look at the artwork, but at some point you have to let that go and just go with not the photograph, but your own ways of working. Because your own imagination will start, you know, putting things together and giving you certain ideas of how to go about, and just let that happen. Now in here. And if you don't like it, you know, it's a gel plate. Wipe it off. And repaint it. And don't forget to put that medium on again in that case, or you'll get beading. Okay, so I'm just going to do some linear work here. I don't want to put, it's all about weight and balance, so you don't want to put too much weight at the top of the work. So that's why I'm switching to more linear lines. We have some of the nice blues. I might put a few more in. So our weight is basically down here. Otherwise it kind of looks top heavy. You just get a feeling for this kind of thing. So here's looking at the image again. See, this shape is what I was trying for. Oh, and we need this little anvil looking thing, or axe looking thing. That's the anvil there. That was some, I was trying to get that, so. And it's sort of obscured in the drawing because I think when we traced it off I couldn't see it all that well. So this is a little bit longer. And then that anvil shape is in here. With this sort of linear component with little white areas. That was an important aspect of it. And then shore that up a little bit. And then this axe kind of thing in here. We're just going to make it a little bit bigger. So it's all part of your imagination. You know, you see things in abstracts that sort of call to you as to what it is, the meaning for you. But most of it is just the formal language of painting. It has to do with line and shape and texture and color and mood and all those kinds of things. All your compositional elements. And composition is just the stuff you put, you know, in your painting. There'll be a nice little V shape in there. And as long as one shape doesn't override the rest of them, make them, I've joined things here. This is my way of working with it. And you've got to make the composition work for you. This is why you have to let go of the imagery and not follow it slavishly. Now in here, I like this color tone, so we're gonna try and mix for that. It's a gray tone, so we need some of the black and some of the white. And then some of the violet. So to me it looks quite violet there. And we're just gonna maybe push that a little bit more. So we're going to put that underneath here. As far as the print goes, I think that will show up nicely. Okay. So we're departing a bit from the first study that we did. And that's all to the good, because I'll make decisions as to what I want to use and what I don't want to use for the painting itself. If I like more violet, well, then I have those possibilities. And then finally, I'm going to wash my brush out again and wipe it clean, but not too clean, and just to coordinate the colors. Now we're going to make some white and a little bit of the blue. So it'll be kind of a grayed white. And this will be more of the phthalo blue. I want it quite intense. And that will be these little spots of color. Now that's much easier to do with an acrylic painting, although it's pretty tedious, than a gel plate print. We can stuff some here and there and everywhere. And this anvil shape, that, remember we had these little spaces. And above there. And then there's lots. And here is where they make sense, because then it's lighter, it's airier. It doesn't have so much weight as down here. And then the very last thing we're going to do is limbs, and we'll just do them in the maybe grayed blues, and that should pull it all together. We'll see how intense that black is when we print it this next time. And we won't have too much of a weight, the paint is drying already. And then once that's dry, we can print that layer and then finish off with our line work, these little lines. And that's about as much as we can do with this piece. I might come back for another episode, maybe with another layer. We'll see what happens, but we'll print this and see where we are. Well, it dried pretty fast, so we are about to put some matte medium on. This is just the Nova color. And there's lots of different brands. Liquitex has, Golden has it. I think they already pretty well work the same way. And you can be fairly generous with it. not, I mean, you are transferring it, but you also want it to come up, right? So in this case, we'll use the plate as a print, you know, like a stamp. Yeah. Have to think about this. And we just line. If you line up the first two corners, you should be fine. And now we do have to wait probably another 20 minutes to half an hour. So here's our piece. We've printed it with the blues, and not too bad. We lost a little bit at the top, but I think we're going to just carry on and do some blue lines to get the feeling of branches. And we're just going to use a Posca pen for that. I can see where everything is, but I don't think it really matters if it goes over top, because in the reflection, most things go over top anyway. And we're just going to start doing some interesting lines. This isn't a Posca pen, it's a Copic sketch. And it's not quite so intense, which is what I want. I was looking for a lighter blue one, but I think we're going to be fine. And so just some mark making. We have a variety of different shapes that we could, you know, we can do some wide lines. We can do some really narrow. So we'll just alter some of our marks here, and that will create a certain amount of interest. Make some connections. And you get the feeling of branches and limbs and maybe little bits of, you know, the ends of the branches and little spots. And I don't think I see any moss on any of these, but we were taking some photos of some of the strange things that are on the trees right now. Some lichens, some mosses. Some very strange fungi. So just doing, so some, we'll try for some really, really small, thin ones too. And we'll see how this prints. Most of these pen, whatever they are, things, they're things. Yeah, drawing pens.
What about them?
Sorry, I got lost in thought here, doing my marks. It's hard to talk and draw and stuff at the same time. But I know I do this, don't I? I start a sentence and I'm lost in thought and it's somewhere totally different. And anyway, and I forget what I was trying to say. Oh, typical, whatever. Anyway, all these marks should relate to the reflection. And reflection is reflecting the trees that are on the shoreline with all the branches. And then the distant ones are the ones that are lighter blue. And we have a fair amount of blue, light blue on there. It should all be good. So that will finish it off for today. I might do more. We'll see what happens. And I'll talk about and show you the progress I'm making on the painting. My deadline is within the month. So I'm pretty sure I can finish it pretty fast. It's actually more straightforward than the gel plate print. So now we are putting more matte medium on here. And I don't think we need to wait very long for this one, thank goodness. We waited about, we were gone about an hour, I think, for the last, and then we still didn't get the top. So I'll roll most of the medium off. So that dries faster. Again, we'll stamp print, line it up nicely. And then rub the back. And we'll have a look at it right away, and if it's just needs a few more minutes, we can do that. Let's see if it comes up. Nope, we're gonna have to wait. Okay, put some weight on it. Well, we're ready for the big reveal. Now just remember, this is a preliminary for a painting, so we're not expecting great and wonderful works of art here. We're working out the colors, we're working out composition, and we will see what happens. We put the Posca marker on, well, not Posca, it was that other one. But I remembered what I should call it, the marker. Okay, so I think it gives you the idea that I want. Here's all the branches. We've got our compositional elements, these dark areas. I think this is something I can work with on my painting. What we're missing are the little white areas. Now I can add those in with paint directly or Posca pen directly. So anyway, I think it turned out pretty well. We have our borders. Now if we crop this, it will actually look pretty good once the little white marks are in. Okay, I think we're at a good point here, and I think we'll finish for today. And we'll carry on next time here at Shoreline Studio, and I'll hopefully have done some stuff done on the painting that I can show you. And I will probably do a little bit more work on the previous design. Let's just bring that one up again on this one. So this one is a little bit too murky. We have to you know, outline some of the negative spaces and put some other color in there. So that's our work cut out for us there. Here we have many more good spaces to work with. Maybe we just need to shore up a little bit more. And some of these are really nice and transparent. I hope you can see that. So that works well. And our secondary tones. So this one I think is more successful than this one so far, but they are yet to be finished. So, all right, onward and upward. Thanks so much for hanging in there with me today, and you know, go through some of these steps for your own paintings. It is worthwhile. You'll end up with probably a better product in the end, and you've gone through all the basics. You know, our thumbnails, the color studies, and maybe try something in a different medium just to work out even more problems. And then I think you'll have the painting under control and can just go straight ahead with it. So take care of yourselves and your families. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And we really appreciate it. So bye for now.